Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. So welcome back to Isabel's Talk Show. And today I've got a friend coming from Australia. So welcome, Stan. Welcome back, because you came a few months ago in the talk show. And before we start with the topic today, I would like to introduce Stan. So Stan was born and raised in country Western Australia. He arrived in Perth to complete high school and do tertiary education. He's been married for 22 years and has two lovely boys aged 13 and 9. He started martial arts and has been training as a teacher martial arts and self-defense for nearly 30 years. Oh, be careful with Stan. He works as an outdoor recreation leader and laser tag marshal. He's also a scout leader taking kids camping, and he's been hiking for 17 years. Stan has been doing personal growth and development for over 29 years. He started his coaching journey in 2019. He helps positive-minded people who are moving up, changing roles at crossroads or feeling stuck, create an extraordinary life. In a challenging world, he will help you to find your path, navigate your way, overcome obstacles, keep you paddling, and build a ladder to the next level. So today we're going to talk about rewriting your life story. So welcome back, Stan.
Oh, thanks for having me back again, Isabel. And happy 4th of July for people in the States that are watching.
Exactly. For all our friends in the States, happy 4th of July. Just enjoy it and watch us. Take the time to watch us.
Yes, if you're not too busy doing stuff, enjoying your life.
Exactly. So how do we rewrite our lives?
So rewriting your life is probably one of the things that I like to get into. I kind of like to do a lot of goal setting and fixing up people's limiting beliefs and rewriting their life story. And we tend to make meanings out of lots of stuff. We're meaning-making machines, what I usually say. And so things happen and we make them mean something, and then we often carry that forward to the rest of our life, meaning stuff, and whatever we made it mean then not necessarily serves us now. So sometimes we need to have a look at the story that's there and rewrite it. And it's kind of like running a movie in your head. So you kind of run the same movie, and people will say, well, I don't run any movies in my head. And I said, how do you brush your teeth? I said, I bet you're running a movie about how you brush your teeth. Do you brush the front first or the top first or the side first? Or, like we run this whole movie on how to brush our teeth. And if you ever brush your teeth a different way than the movie that's running, it feels weird. And people are like, and that's a really small kind of thing. Imagine if that movie was affecting your actual life. And I'll kind of cover that as we get in. And people go, I don't know how movies will really affect my life. And I mean, I like movies, so we kind of get into the characters and who's playing. And if you're the director of your own movie, then there's a whole bunch of stuff that comes up. And so I've got a friend, and her movie is she always gets a really good car park. And like I've been in the car with her, and she'd be like, "Oh, get a car park," and someone will pull out, or it'll just be open, and you're like, "That's really cool. That's a very good kind of movie to kind of run in your head." And so I think I mentioned in some of the little subtitles that I was going to talk about tigers. So one of my movies that runs in my head is when I go to the Perth Zoo, I like tigers, and I like to go and visit the tigers. Okay. And my movie is The Tiger Always Comes to Visit Me.
Okay, and goes to the
yeah. So like they've got a big. It's got a big enclosure, and it's got, ponds and bamboo and trees and all sorts of cool things that tigers like to do, and, running around areas. And, when I get there, he'll always come up to the glass, and people are like, no, that doesn't happen. And I'm like, oh yeah, the tiger will come and visit me. And it's happened so many times. I remember some people kind of skipped ahead. We stopped and watched the elephants go by and stuff. And they got there and they said, oh, the tiger's just laying in the shade. And the gardener was there, like pruning all the vegetation around and stuff. He says, oh, yeah, he's been there all day. And when I got there, I said, oh, but that's okay. The tiger will come and see me. And pretty much within about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes, he got up, walked over to the glass, went back, laid down. And they were like, wow, that's amazing. And I said, oh, yeah, because the tiger always comes to see me. And they were like, what? Because that's the movie that runs in my head.
Yeah.
And that's a positive kind of movie, same as with the parking space. The movie that runs in her head is positive. It's like, oh, I'll get a good parking space. You know, she gets it right outside the shop, or she'll get it under cover or in the shade or wherever, because the movie that's running in her head is that's what happens.
The power of the thoughts and visualizing it creates it.
Yes. Now, the problem being, obviously, when the movie in your head doesn't help you or serve you.
Mm-hmm.
So I teach a lot of martial arts. I teach a lot of kids martial arts, and sometimes we're pairing them up together to do wrestling or sparring, and sometimes we pair a bigger person with a little person, or we pair a higher grade with a lower grade, and we generally tell the higher grade or the bigger person to go easier or something like that, but the kids come out and tell the story. So often I say, what story are you running in the head? Are you running in your head that Jimmy's bigger than you? And they're like, uh-huh. And you're like, okay, because we're here to wrestle and learn. And sometimes it's good to fight someone who's heavier or, you know, faster or even a higher grade than you, because you can learn stuff. And remember, we're all going easy here. But the story they're running in their head is, oh, I'm going to get squashed here, or I'm going to get beaten up or something.
Exactly. It's intimidating. It's just like, oh my God, I mean, somebody bigger than me, I'm going to be crushed, or feeling less confident to do it. Oh, wow. Yeah, I can imagine that. So how do you switch that mindset?
Well, one of the ways I switch it is because I've brought it to their attention, then I can start to go, okay, you know, like, oh, it's good to train with Jimmy because he's so good and I'll learn something. And they start going, oh, that's a different movie in their head than, oh my God, I'm going to get squashed sort of thing. And, you know, as an instructor, you know, sometimes we've told Jimmy to go easy or hop on his knees or fight with one hand, and a lot of times, sometimes it's for the higher grade so that they can practice some of the moves that they've just learned that they want to perfect, because their movie is, oh, I'm not really good at this move, so I'll just do what I normally do. But they need to kind of extend out of their comfort zone as well and say, well, I need to practice this because when I meet some of the higher grades, I've got a different skill for them. So sometimes like both can be running stories in their head.
That's fine. Yeah, totally. But do you ask them to visualize like athletes do?
Sometimes, generally, just because I've made them aware of this. I mean, it's a small story. It's a 3-minute wrestling sort of round. It's not big, but the story they switch in their head can be, oh, I'm going to learn something here, or I'm going to practice my takedowns, or, you know, like sometimes we can just switch them around and you can often see their brain switch, you know, and, you know, they go, oh, Jimmy's going to go easy on me. Okay. You know, I'm quite happy now. And then, of course, you know, some of them have been to, we had people that went to competitions and they, you know, they're meeting people that they're not normally wrestling with. On a daily basis. They're meeting some of the other guys from other schools. And of course, they're like, oh, because you said, you know, I'm just going to come out and learn something, or, you know, just the fact that I participated, their whole story had changed. So some of the kids, it says, oh, I did really well on the weekend because I wasn't worried about the guy on the other side, even though he was taller or bigger. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's right, because we changed the story.
Cool. So, as adults, how would you advise people to rewrite their story?
So the first kind of thing, the two big T's is what we look for. is, as I said, we're meaning-making machines. So generally we've had something occur, then we made it mean something. So big T's are kind of that really big trauma stuff, or events that might have happened, like a car accident, or, you know, broke up with my boyfriend or my girlfriend, or someone died, or, you know, the really big stuff that they can fit their mind around and go, oh, yeah, I remember that. You know, my boyfriend left me and alarm's going off to say it's time to go to class. See, there's a story right there. No, yeah. So they're like, oh, my boyfriend left me, so I must be unlovable. And it's kind of easy to kind of find those big points in our life. And you can find good ones, you know, you get married or the birth of your kids is kind of big points that you can see.
Yeah.
I think the hard ones to see are what I call the little T's, the little traumas that kind of add up that you make mean something that you carry along with you. So I'll share mine with you. So I kind of had we play Australian rules footy here, and I was playing footy. I must have been about 12 or 13, and I went to kick a long distance, probably for a kid 25 kind of meters sort of thing. And I kicked the ball went off the side of my foot, and as meaning making machines, I made that mean I'm not good enough at kicking long balls. So that kind of defined who I was as a football player, because then I only did short kicks. I learned how to handball really good. I learned how to tackle. I learned how to tag players so that they couldn't get the ball. And so I learned how to do all that. That defined me of who again. Did that really mean that I couldn't kick a long ball? No. But it did lots of personal growth and development and stuff, and kind of came to this point. And it was like, well, I'm not good enough to kick long distances. And then what happened was, as I progressed through life, I'm not good enough to kick long distances suddenly got shortened to I'm not good enough.
Exactly.
And then you get into any situation, or, you know, get into a sales situation or a job interview or something, and you're like, I'm not good enough, because that story is now running in my brain.
Yeah, it knocked your confidence down.
Yeah, and it was
not only in sports,
yeah,
in other parts of your life.
Very, and you're like, oh, and it was so small, like it's a small T, and you could have missed it. It was only the fact that we were doing work that we kind of even discovered what the origin was. And that's kind of the really hard bit, getting down to the origin. So when I rewrote the story, this is the actual story that happened. I went to kick a ball, came off the side of my boot. The end. And you're like, oh, but I have been living with the rest of the other stuff.
Yeah, the emotion.
Yeah. And also you drag that into, as I said, you drag it into job interviews or businesses or relationships or whatever, and you're dragging these little T's and the big T's along with you. And you're like, oh, and some of them are the same movie running, just different characters, because you're like, oh, I kicked the ball, it didn't go, I'm not good enough. Oh, you know, I wrote an essay and I only got a B, so I can't be good enough. You know, like you're adding these together. And some of them are new. So you might, you know, write an essay and suddenly come up with, you know, well, I'm not worthy. Or, you know, you start running a different movie, and now you've got all these movies coming up, and you get into a situation, and what does your brain do? Pulls up a movie. Just like the kids in the martial arts. They're like, oh, I've got to fight Big Jimmy, and now I'm scared, or I'm going to get crushed, or, you know, like whatever. And the movie comes up. So kind of the first thing you really want to do is kind of be aware of what the movie is.
Yeah.
And that is not an easy task.
No.
As a coach, you're kind of figuring stuff out, looking for limiting beliefs. It usually comes up when we write a bunch of goals, then they start doing action steps, and then they're like, I've run into a bunch of hurdles and pitfalls, because we kind of run up against their limiting beliefs and their life stories.
Mhm.
And you're like, let's rewrite that.
Exactly. And sometimes can be like a comment. You've been told something and you don't even realize the impact it's had on you. And I remember somebody saying to me, "Are you sure you're going to be able to do it?" And that was just like stuck in my mind for a few for a few days. And I had a chat with that person and just said, "Don't you actually trust me?" And suddenly the person didn't realize the impact that comment had on me. But for a few days, I felt a bit weird because I just thought, okay, that's somebody really close to me. And this comment can stop me from being successful and put doubts in my mind.
Yeah. And now we're making it mean something.
Mm-hmm.
And if you didn't catch that it happened, it just happens automatically.
Exactly. And that person was transferring her fears onto me. So I just said, listen, that's your stuff. Sort it out. I don't want it. But that's hard to just realize it.
And it happens all the time. And I've got a friend, like a coach and as well, and he's also a business mentor of mine. And sometimes he has to say, "What story are you telling yourself?"
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of got to stop and think, okay, what am I saying? What am I feeling? What am I, like? As a friend of mine, she's a kind of a body worker, and she would say there's a very little difference between nervousness and excitement.
Mm-hmm.
And she said there's a lot of these kind of emotions. There's a lot, there's a lot of kind of just a fraction difference between, hey, I'm scared, and hey, I've got a lot of courage, and they're like almost the same. And in your body work, they're almost the same positions.
Mm-hmm.
So nervousness and excitement is all kind of in your belly,
Yeah.
and they're like operate almost the same. And you're like, And so when you're kind of aware of the story that's running, you're like, I can change that.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the techniques that I tend to use is timeline therapy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you've heard of timeline therapy.
Oh, tell us.
So I'll let everybody know. So timeline therapy was kind of developed, and it's kind of a way of traveling. You can travel back into the past, and you can travel into the future. And I kind of like to use it because I don't necessarily need to know what the context is for the person to help them. And so to give you a quick example, so most people figure out that if I asked you, Isabel, to point which way you thought the past was, which way would you point? Left, right, front, back, or up or down?
Left.
Excellent. Left. So, yep. I'm left as well, and it doesn't matter where you are. People just go, this is where I have a representation of where the past is. And if I ask you where the future was, where would it be?
Opposite. So
excellent. Yeah, and it doesn't matter. Some people would say, a friend of mine, he's left and front, and like it doesn't matter where it is. Now that we've got an idea, we can literally travel the timeline. And I kind of do this exercise when I start coaching with people, just to kind of get them used to how I can travel on the timeline. So if I asked you to step on your timeline where you are right now, and we're going to go back into the past, and if I said, go back into the past to your, let's say, go back 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So people can then take a journey back to the past. And what I want you to do is, okay, so 3 months ago, it's now July. So that would be June, May, April. It'll be about the 4th of April. So travel back along your past and drop down to roughly the beginning of April.
Okay. Yeah.
And just have a look around and see what was there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you can come back again. So come back again to, say, the beginning of May.
Yeah.
And what happened? Now come back to now, and we can reverse that because we can go the other way.
Mm-hmm.
So we can go, let's go into the future. So I did this the other day with a friend, and her birthday was the next day. So she, like I said, go to your next birthday. And she said, oh, that's tomorrow. And I was like, oh, okay, go to the next one. Like you got to go a year out.
Next year.
but to make it really easy, because it's July now, and I know that here in Australia, we are celebrating Christmas in July because we don't get those big full hot meals because
course.
it's like 40 degrees or 90 for those that are in the Fahrenheit range. And we have salads and barbecues. So we're having the kind of full meals. So go into the future and travel to Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And then just drop down and see what Christmas would be like for you this year. And it'll be really good for most people because I know lots of my friends and coaches are all planning to travel for Christmas to see relatives that they haven't seen. So
I hope
Christmas
so.
is going to be super wonderful.
Yeah.
Or lots of Home Alone moments where they leave calling McCoken at home and then panic,
Mhm.
which is a story that they're running in their head. And we're
True.
back to running stories. So the reason I found the football one is because we were playing around with the timeline.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were asked to kind of go back on the timeline and find all the points where you had, I'm not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so your brain kind of goes along and we say, look, just light them up wherever they happen to occur in your timeline in the past. And just keep lighting them up until you get to the very first one. And what's really cool is your unconscious mind is really smart. It will just take you along. And I'll have people that say, well, but I don't even know what happened there. And I go, you don't need to know.
Mm-hmm.
Your unconscious knows. We just get there. We can deal with what's going on. And you can go. So if I travel back along, there's all these points that lit up. I'm not good enough. I get back. I get to the football point. There's nothing beyond that really said that story.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, so here's the story. I was able to drop down and figure out what happened, but that's not necessarily what everybody else does. So
Mm-hmm.
I drop down, I figure out what's happening, I get the learnings from it. And of course, part of the learning was I became really good at short kicks, really good at tackling, really good at handballs, and I played a completely different game because I wasn't very good at kicking long distance. So like in some ways it was handy, and you're like, okay, so I managed to change what I did, and
Yeah.
that's the lesson, and I can bring the lesson back because I can be adaptable and I can change and do stuff, but I don't need that emotional stuff
Anymore.
that says you're not good enough. And then you
Exactly.
can float back and
Uh-huh.
bring that back, all those little points that were in, I'm not good enough
In
before,
between.
they all
Mhm.
start to kind of, it's like pulling like a knitted jumper and you pull it and everything unravels. And you're like,
Mhm.
ah.
But Stan,
That,
do you do it meditating or just writing, physically
yeah.
writing?
Look, I tend to just do it like I've described it, have the person close their eyes, take a journey in their imagination back into the past. I also use timeline for things like goal setting. So we might set a goal,
Mhm.
we take it out in the
Picture.
future, we drop it in the future, and then we
Yeah.
say, what's everything that's got to happen on the way back in the timeline? And they're
Mhm.
like, oh, this is a 5-year goal. So I need to be here, I need to be here, I need to be here. And then we can drop down and say, oh, and I mean, I kind of learnt this with like, Tony Robbins and stuff like that. Like back, and you can drop down and find out, oh, look, I'm really stressed at the moment and you can bring that back and say, okay, so in 2 years' time, I'm going to be really stressed because I'm going to be trying to do everything. I need to plan to
Ahead.
get some staff members, or I think you're co-hosting with some other people on your course, and you're using your strength, and you go, this is my strength, this is her strength, we can combine, and you go, well, I'm not stressed anymore, but I still get the results that I'm looking for. So
Mhm. And it's a way as well to break down the goals. For example, you've got your main goals, let's say in 2 years' time, and then you 2 years, and you say, okay, 1.5 years, 1 year, and back now, or 6 months and back now. So you can see all the different steps in between. So that's it makes it clearer.
yeah,
So
yeah, and you can go in and out, and you can drop down and have a look what's happening, and you can get kind of like, I always think of it like a kind of a fly or a drone. I can travel around, or I can drop in and see what's happening. Am I stressed? Am I not stressed? Am I happy? You know, am I doing this job right? Like, where are you up to? You can also have kind of a big picture, like watching what's happening in your life story, like
mhm.
what's going on and how that characters are interacting. So for most people, when they try to make their life story, they're not the hero of the story. I actually find out a lot of times they're the sidekick or the minor character or in the background.
Oh, wow.
So then we start thinking about lots of times why rewriting your life story is not kind of an easy job, but I have some timeline is one thing that I like to use that's easy and quick, because it helps people kind of figure stuff out. And I've done it with people and they do not know what the first incident was, but they trusted their unconscious mind to be there. Their unconscious mind says it was here. They got some sort of lesson. They got the story dissolved and brought it forward. And they still can't say, I don't know what it was. You know, they're not clear on, can't. And then some people will say, oh, I found it, like it was this little thing. I went to the store and mum wouldn't give me a lollipop, and then I was like, that's it. I'm just, not going to have lollipops forever, or, whatever you made it mean, sort of thing. And the other thing I like to use is tapping.
Yeah.
So emotional freedom techniques. And it's like what? You go like, yeah, we can reprogram your story and we can figure out kind of what that is.
Yeah, because it's usually related to emotion.
Yeah.
Right?
And
you get something bad, you get the emotion, as for your example, well, you didn't do it. So you felt guilty about it, and all suddenly your confidence went down. And that emotion is stuck there. So with EFT, it helps as well to get rid of the emotion, not only the memory of it.
Yeah. I thought I might kind of finish off, as long as we've got enough time, with a really.
I think we've got plenty of time.
And plenty of time. I'm going to run out of material and I'll just get some stuff out. I thought we'd kind of finish off with some tapping probably about, it only goes for about probably just over a minute. And people are like, really? You can make change that easy? So people that haven't learnt tapping, I suppose, there's a bunch of kind of energy points that connect into your body. And then basically we tap on them. And they're usually connected with emotions. So we've got our big T's and our little T's. And even just general days, anxiety and stuff like that. I've taught people how to do the finger tapping, including Lisa, who's been working with you about finger tapping, because they go, oh, I can do this in like a job interview. Or one of the girls that I taught her how to do, she had anxiety about going to school, and of course she could do it on her fingers in her pockets.
Yeah.
Where you go, oh, and you're like, we'll kind of give everybody the super treat and give them the whole tapping experience. So I'll kind of go through the tapping points. And I always find a lot of people kind of tell a story and say, well, I don't know how this works, and I don't know if I want to try it. And you're like, you don't need to understand how it works. It's kind of like, do you know how electricity works? Do you know how your television works? Or do you just turn it on and watch something? And you're like, just turn it on and watch something. So just do the tapping. So the very first point is the karate chop point on the side of your hand. And people will say, which finger should I tap with? Some people will tap with a whole hand. Some people will tap with 2 fingers. Some people will. The really cool thing I like about tapping is it's very universal and it's very forgiving. If you forget a point, or you tap with 3 fingers or 2 fingers or 1 finger or whatever, it's quite good. So then the next one is the top of the head. It was called the monkey position. It looks like you're a monkey. And congratulations, I just made everybody look like a monkey. So eyebrow, so the inside of your eyebrow, just tapping. And you can tap with 2 hands or 1 hand. And people will say, does it matter which side I do? And you go, no. So it's just right in the corner where your eyebrow would meet.
Yeah.
So the next one is the side of the eye. So not the temple. The side of the eye is still right on the eye bone right there. Under the eye, so you're on the eye bone underneath, but just there. Under the nose, which is here. And you can tap, like I said, you can do it with 2 hands. You can do it with 1 hand. So under the mouth is the next one. Collarbone. So just not everyone does it right on their collarbone. It's actually a little bit underneath the collarbone. So people kind of go, oh. The really cool thing about tapping, if you tap on your collarbone or under your collarbone, everything, unless you're telling a bad story about tapping and it has to be precise, and all the perfectionists and OCD people out there will be going, oh my God, I've got to get this right. And be like, that's a story that you're telling. Congratulations. And then the next one is under the armpit. For ladies, it's about right where your bra line would be.
Okay.
For gents, same place. If you're wearing bras, congratulations, Bob. It's the same place. This is fine. And it's not hard to do, so I just kind of go through it quickly and easily, and it only takes about, as I said, about a minute or two. There is a bunch of science behind it. You can go and look it up, because people tell stories and say, oh, I want to know more about this. You can find people like Nick Ortner and Brad Yates and stuff like that.
Or they can contact you directly, Stan.
Yeah, they can call me, and we can have all sorts of stuff.
I'll put your email address in the description of the Facebook Live, so they can contact you directly. I've got a question for our audience, I'm sure. How many times do you actually tap?
So the really cool thing is, look, I would say the script that we're going to go through is kind of really fast, and I would say somewhere between about 10 and 15. It also depends on what we're doing. Sometimes you'll spend more time on one spot, or less times. There's not really a number that you're doing. For this one, look, if you were tapping 10 to 15 times, you've just about got it. Someone will say, oh, but I only got 7. Okay. It will still work.
Yeah, no pressure.
No pressure. And no stories. It doesn't matter.
Exactly.
This whole script is actually about changing your story.
Exactly. And tapping ways to release stress. So by putting more pressure, what's the point?
Yeah. And you can use tapping for lots of stuff. So stress is one, anxiety, fears. People are using it for fear of flying. And now that everyone can fly, a friend of mine said the other day, he says, I actually saw someone doing tapping on the plane. And he says the only reason that he knew that he'd been talking to me, and I was talking that I was learning tapping, and we had a session about what tapping was, about the same as what we just gave everybody else. But he says, yeah, I saw somebody on the plane doing a little bit of tapping. And he goes, oh, it was really cool. So, hey, it's being used everywhere. But people are using it for all sorts of stuff, pain, weight loss. I tend to use it for positive affirmations.
Yeah.
I can tap on the points. I'm a great networker. I am a great martial artist.
I'm confident. I know I can do it. I mean,
life is a success. I've got a great story, whatever it is. So you can mix and match it. And a friend of mine just does hers by talking. So whenever she does it, she just goes, I just talk through the points. I don't need to worry about, because you can get into a lot of kind of scripts and recipes, and people want it precise, and this is how it's going to be. She says, I just talk to myself. She says the best place to do it is in the bath, where I'm relaxing. But she just talks and taps. And
I think as well, the fact that you're talking and maybe saying, okay, I'm tapping on my hand, I'm tapping on my head, you are more present of what you're doing. Because I tend to have my mind just like, right? So I do that actually. I talk to myself when I need to be present and concentrate on something. I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I understand.
And then when you're doing that, you're actually putting yourself into the movie. Where am I? Well, I'm sitting here talking to Isabel, and now we're doing a bunch of tapping stuff. You're like, where are we? Where are we here?
Exactly.
And like I was a little bit nervous to start when we're getting here, and then I was hoping I had the right room. And like while I was practicing my script, but I was also practicing the tapping just to kind of kind of get grounded and get ready to
Exactly.
kind of jump in and, hey, we're ready to go. Otherwise you'll get the fired up super, oh my God, this guy's out of control.
Oh, well, I like you out of control. No worries. We're between friends here.
You don't want quite that over control, because I would be a little bit like, woo. Everyone will be like, unsubscribe now.
Well, that's exactly what we want. We want them to contact you so you can...
No, but you want them to contact. We want them to contact us. We don't want them disappearing, because they want to come back.
Okay.
We want them to come back for some good stuff. So I'm going to run through this quick kind of script, and it is literally about changing your story. You can say it out loud, or you can say it in your brain. It doesn't make a difference. And we're going to start at the top of your head. So it just goes like this. Today, I'm changing the story.
I'm changing the story.
Eyebrow. Any story I have.
Any story
side of the eye. About who I am.
About who I am.
Under the eye. About how someone else treats me.
About how people or somebody else treats me.
And you don't have to worry about getting the words right. Under the nose. About any situation.
About any situation.
If it doesn't make me feel good, so under the mouth. Collarbone. If it makes me feel yucky.
If it makes me feel yucky.
Yeah. Under the armpit. If it disempowers me in any way.
If it doesn't disempower me in any way.
Karate chop point. I'm letting it go.
I'm letting it go.
And then we're going to start again at the top. If it isn't serving me.
If it isn't serving me.
Eyebrow. As of right now.
As of right now.
Side of the eye. I'm replacing the story.
I'm replacing the story.
That story under the eye.
That story.
Under the nose with a new one.
With a new one.
Under the mouth. That reminds me.
That reminds me.
Collarbone. That I'm in control.
That I'm in control.
Under the arm. I have the power.
And I have the power.
Karate chop point. And I get to create whatever I want.
I get to create whatever I want.
Nice, easy. Took just over a minute.
Powerful.
Feeling super. That's right.
Powerful. No, thank you very much, Stan. Because yes, sometimes we need to just take the time to just get rid of the emotion and the anxiety and the situations we don't want to be in. So that's easy, and talking to ourselves as well helps to integrate the intention. So, okay. Well, thank you very much, Stan. Anything else you want to share with us?
So there is a lot of other techniques that we use. As I said, rewriting your story is kind of a long journey. It's not, hey, we can fix you. This is where I start with people. We start looking for things that are happening, and I kind of mentioned at the beginning that we're kind of working on our tigers, that I was going to tell everyone about the tigers, about the story that I have about the tiger always comes to see me. And he does. Every time I go to the zoo, the tiger always comes to see me. And look, we've been in Australia. It's hot sometimes, and tigers lay down and they don't get up and wander around, except when I'm there, because they come and see me. And we talked about big T's and little T's. We had a look at the timeline, and we had a look at tapping. And obviously there's things like journaling, or, we start rewriting the story. I've got a really cool technique called a 22 by 11, which is where you write a phrase 11 times and you do it for 22 days and you write the answer. And often when you do it, when you first start, you might use like, I'm very confident, and people come up with all sorts of negative things, including I've done it, and you're like going, I'm not really, or I'm just writing this because I had to write it because it's an exercise. And after a while, your brain starts to click in and you start figuring out what the actual movie is. And then you're like, I'm not really in this movie. It's just running.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, and then you're like, and we can change it and do stuff. And then we start getting in and breaking the story apart and using some NLP, neuro-linguistic programs to kind of rewrite the whole story.
Super, thank you very much. So tell us a little bit about your mini course or your course you're going to.
I'm working on a mini course at the moment. I'm hoping that'll kind of be up in the next 60 to 90 days. It's on overcoming obstacles. So it's a quick kind of video and then a little bit of work for people to kind of figure out what the obstacle is and how they can get over it. And a lot of the obstacles, of course, are mental, because we've all got this meaning-making stuff that we make up. and we have a big life story that we just rotate and run in our brain.
Okay, so well, Stan, you can always come back when you've got the day to launch it. Come back on the talk show, and we will be talking about it. And you can launch the program for everybody to contact you. Or if you need more information about what Stan does, about his course, about tapping, don't hesitate to contact Stan. As I said to you, I've put his email in the Facebook Live description. So thank you very much, Stan. And
thank you for having me.
Well, it's always a pleasure. I love to have you, and you can come back anytime, as I said to you, and I would be happy to launch your program with you here on that platform. And my guest speaker next week will be Sandra Eitensen-Sweetman from Canada, and she's going to talk about power versus force. So don't forget next week. Look out for the information, and if you've missed any more talk shows, don't hesitate to look at the YouTube channel, Phoenix Coaching and Training. So thank you very much, Stan, and good
Thanks
night.
for having me.
It's quite late in Australia. Bye-bye, the audience, and I see you next Monday. Bye.
Bye.